Good morning, everyone. And as promised, I'm going to continue reading from The Night at Dawn by Mary Pope Osborne, and we are right now on chapter 6. No pictures yet, so let's listen. Ta-da! In the torchlight, Jack saw 3 huge men standing over him. One with very squinty eyes held the torch. One with a very red face held Jack. And one with a very long mustache held on to Annie. Annie was kicking and yelling. "Stop!" said one with a very long mustache. "Who art thou?" said the one with the very red face. "Spies? Foreigners? Egyptians? Romans? Persians?" said the squinty-eyed one. "No," said Annie. "Oh, brother," said Jack. "Arrest them," said the red man with the red face. "The dungeon," said the squinty eyes. The guards marched Jack and Annie out of the armory. Jack looked back frantically. Where was his backpack? "Go," said the guard, giving him a push. Jack went. Down they marched, down the long, dark hallway. Squinty, Annie, Mustache, Jack, and Red. Down a narrow, winding staircase. Jack heard Annie shouting at the guards. "Dummies! Meanies! We didn't do anything!" The guards laughed. They didn't take her seriously at all. At the bottom of the stairs was a big iron door with a bar across it. Still no picture. Squinty pushed the bar off the door. Then he shoved at the door. It creaked open. Jack and Annie were pushed into a cold, clammy room. The fiery torch lit the dungeon. There were chains hanging from the filthy walls. Water dripped from the ceiling, making mud puddles on the stone floor. It was the creepiest place Jack had ever seen. "We'll keep them here till the feast is done, then turn them over to the Duke," said Squinty. "He knows how to care for the thieves." "There will be a hanging tomorrow," said the mustache. "If the rats don't get them first," said Red, and they all laughed. Jack saw that Annie had his backpack. She was quietly unzipping it. "Come on, let's chain the 2 of them," said Squinty. The guards started toward them. Annie whipped her flashlight out of the packet. "Ta-da!" she yelled. The guards froze, and they stared at the shiny flashlight in her hand. Annie switched the light on. The guards gasped in fear. They jumped back against the wall. Squinty dropped the torch. It fell into the dirty puddle on the floor, sputtered, and went out. "My magic wand!" Annie said, waving the flashlight. "Get down or I'll wipe you out." Jack's mouth dropped open. Annie fiercely pointed her light at one, then another. Each howled and covered his face. Oh, good. There's your picture. "Down, all of you! Get down!" shouted Annie. One by one, the guards laid down on the wet floor. Jack couldn't believe it. "Come on," Annie said to him. Let's go." Jack looked at the open doorway. He looked at the guards, quaking on the ground. "Hurry," said Annie. In one quick leap, Jack followed her out of the terrible dungeon. So Annie saved the day. And now we're on to chapter 7. It's called A Secret Passage. Annie and Jack raced back up the winding stairs and down the long hallway. They hadn't gone far when he heard shouting behind them. Dogs barked in the distance. "They're coming," Annie cried. "In here," said Jack. He shoved open the door of the hallway and pulled Annie into the dark room. Jack pushed the door shut. Then Annie shined her flashlight around the room. There were rows of sacks and wooden barrels. "I'd better look in that book," said Jack. "Give it to me." Annie gave him the flashlight and his backpack. He pulled out the book and started tearing through it. "Shh," said Annie. "Someone's coming." Jack and Annie jumped behind the door as it creaked open. Jack held his breath. A light from the torch danced wildly over the sacks and barrels. The light disappeared and the door slammed shut. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. "We have to hurry. Might be coming back." His hands were trembling as he flipped through the pages of the castle book. "Here's a map of the castle," he said. "Look, this must be the room we're in." "It's a storeroom." Jack studied the room in the book. "These are sacks of flour and barrels of wine." "Who cares? We have to go," said Annie. "Before they come back." "No, look," said Jack. He pointed at the map. "Here's a trap door." He read aloud. It says it right here. "This door leads from the storeroom through a secret passage to a precipice over the moat." "What's a precipice?" said Annie. "I don't know. We'll find out," said Jack. "But first we have to find the door." Jack looked at the picture carefully. Then he shined the flashlight around the room. The floor of the room was made up of stones, and the trap door in the picture was 5 stones away from the door in the hall. Jack shined the light on the floor and counted the stones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He stamped on the 5th stone. It was loose. He put the flashlight on the floor and he worked his fingers under the thin sheet of stone and tried to lift it. "Help," Jack said. Annie came over and helped him lift the stone square out of its place. Underneath was a small wooden door. Jack and Annie tugged on the rope handle of the door. The door fell open with a thunk. Jack picked up the flashlight and shined it on the hole. "There's a little ladder," he said. "Let's go." He climbed on the flashlight. He clipped on the flashlight and felt his way down the small ladder. Annie followed. Oh, still no picture. Keep listening. When they both reached the bottom of the ladder, Jack shined the light around them. "There's a tunnel." He crouched down and began moving through the damp, creepy tunnel. The flashlight barely lit the stone walls. He shook the light. Were the batteries running out? "I think our light's dying," he said to Annie. "Hurry," she called from behind. Jack went faster. His back hurt from crouching. The light got dimmer and dimmer. He was desperate to get out of the castle before the batteries died completely. Soon he reached another small wooden door, the door at the end of the tunnel. Jack unlatched the door and pushed it open. He poked his head outside. He couldn't see anything in the misty darkness. The air felt good, cool and fresh. He took a deep breath. "Where are we?" whispered Annie behind him. "What do you see?" "Nothing, but I think we've come to the outside of the castle," said Jack. "I'll find out." Jack put the flashlight in his pack. He put the pack on his back. He stuck his hand out the door. He couldn't feel the ground, just air. "I'm going to have to go feet first," he said. Jack turned around in the small tunnel. He laid on his stomach. He stuck one leg out of the door, then the other. Jack inched down bit by bit until he was hanging out the door, clinging to the ledge. "This must be the precipice," he called to Annie. "Pull me up." Annie reached for Jack's hand. "I can't hold on to you," she said. Jack felt his fingers slipping, then down he fell, down through the darkness. Splash! Here's the picture. Give you a few seconds to look at it. There's Annie up on the wall, and there goes Jack. Oh, wow. Chapter 8. The Night. I'll read one more chapter for today. Water filled Jack's nose and covered his head. His glasses fell off. He grabbed them just in time. He coughed and flailed his arms. "Jack!" Annie was calling from above. "I'm in the moat," said Jack, grasping for air. He tried to tread water and put his glasses back on. With his backpack, his shoes, and his heavy clothes, he could hardly stay afloat. Splash! "Hi, I'm here," Annie sputtered. Jack could hear her nearby, but he couldn't see her. "Which way's land?" Annie asked. "I don't know, just swim." Jack dog-paddled through the cold, black water. He heard Annie swimming, too. At first it seemed as if she was swimming in front of him, but then he heard a splash behind him. "Annie?" he called. "What?" Her voice came from in front, not behind. Another splash. Behind. Jack's heart almost stopped. Crocodiles? He couldn't see anything through his water-streaked glasses. "Annie," he whispered. "What?" "Swim faster." "But I'm here. I'm over here near the edge," she whispered. Jack swam through the dark toward her voice. He imagined a crocodile slithering after him. Another splash not far away. Jack's hand touched a wet, live thing. "Ah!" he cried. "It's me. Take my hand," said Annie. Jack grabbed her hand. She pulled him to the edge of the moat. They crawled over an embankment on the wet grass. Safe! Another splash came from the moat waters. Oh man, Jack said. He was shivering all over and his teeth were chattering. He shook the water off of his glasses and put them back on. It was so misty he couldn't see the castle. He couldn't even see the moat, much less the crocodile. We made it, said Annie. Her teeth were chattering too. I know, said Jack. But where are we? He peered at the foggy darkness. Where was the drawbridge, the windmill, the hawk house, the grove of trees, the tree house? Everything had been swallowed up by the thick, soupy darkness. Jack reached into his wet backpack and pulled out the flashlight. He pushed the switch. No more light. They were trapped, not in a dungeon, but in the still, cold darkness. Nay! A horse's whinny. Just then the clouds parted. A full moon was shining in the sky. A pool of light spread through the mist. Then Jack and Annie saw him just a few feet away. The knight. He sat on the black horse. His armor shone in the moonlight. A visor hid his face. But he seemed to be staring straight at Jack and Annie. Oh, chapter 9. We'll have to wait until next time. And this one's titled Under the Moon. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye.